Obviously not the season he expected, nor the Colts as a whole. And so feel bad for Matt, but ultimately I feel that Nick gives us the best chance to win, and that's the direction we're headed. We're not making nearly enough explosive plays and, not making plays in the red zone. And again, I've said this before, this is not all on Matt, right? I mean, this is us entirely on an offensive perspective, and but that, ultimately that leads into it, And so I feel like Nick will give us a better chance to go win these last 3 games, and that's why we're headed that way. At the end of the day, we have to get teams out of playing their safeties at, 7 yards. And look, man, everybody watches all 22. You can see it, right? Clear as day. And so at some point, you have to challenge people vertically. Again, that's not on one position. There's a number of positions that's involved in. But yeah, we have to make that.
Yeah, it's not on one position, but we're changing the quarterback because the current quarterback can't push the safeties more than 7 yards away from the line of scrimmage. But it's not on one position, but we are changing the quarterback to a guy who's been hiding in plain sight all year. This is so weird. It's like, who did Nick Foles piss off in Indianapolis?
Seriously.
He's a Super Bowl MVP, unlike Matt Ryan. He got passed over for Sam Ehlinger because I think they believed that they could possibly develop Ehlinger. Let's find out. Let's see what his ceiling is. Let's see if the light comes on for him and he could become the guy that just kind of falls out of the sky into our laps, like our version of Tom Brady. That didn't work. They go back to Matt Ryan. They threw caution to the wind on the whole $17 million. And I'm telling you, that's got to be a factor here. Now that it's over, now that it's done, we pivot back to putting Matt Ryan in bubble wrap so we don't owe him $17 million by next March. I think that mindset has prevailed again. After what happened on Saturday, after that mess, you're just done. You're over. That's it. It's kaput. The only question is, does Jeff Saturday come back next year? And, hey, for as convinced as I was by halftime of Saturday's game that Jeff Saturday would be back, I'm exactly the opposite after what happened. I don't think he's got a very good shot, and now he's trying to do what he can with Nick Foles the final 3 games of the week, and we'll see if they can pull it off when they face the Chargers on Monday Night Football, Chris.
Yeah, well, you're right. That was a big blow, I think, to his future there the other night. I think when you take that into account and, the Monday Night Football game with maybe not calling the timeouts the proper way there, right, a few weeks ago, those are 2, not so good looks on your resume there as far as a head coach. So I'm with you. It seems like it's trending towards that won't be that, or he won't be the head coach next year. I think this is, he said it right. This is something we talked about when they brought in Sam Ehlinger. All right, it was it's a quarterback that can't throw the ball down the field. He's never had a real strong arm, but the arm has totally fallen off a cliff this year. And as we saw, I've never seen a game where somebody's up 33-0 and the quarterback had 180 yards total for the game, right? I mean, he threw one play to Jelani Woods, who broke it up the sidelines a little. That was the big pass of the day. And then, yes, the fumbling and, being careless with the ball. And he got away with even a few mistakes the other day against Minnesota where you guys could have capitalized. But it seems like to me that, yes, this is a positive because Nick Foles can push the ball down the field, and they have some guys that can stretch the field that way. And he's a bigger man who's not quite as old or in the deep part of his career where I think he's going to be more willing to stand in there and take shots to push the ball down the field. And this isn't easy to say. This is a legend of the sport, but it seems like it's the end for Matt Ryan. I don't know, how you can evaluate it and look at it and not think that, this might be his last year and we're coming down the home stretch of a great, great career he's had.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes guys choose to walk away on their own at the right time. Sometimes they hang around longer than they should. And you could argue that Matt Ryan hung around longer than he should. But as your dad said, I'm not retiring until they pull the uniform off of me. And sometimes that means they pull the uniform off of you while you're playing that last year because it's just not good enough. And there's no shame in that. We all reach that point where the physical ability no longer can match what the history was, and Matt Ryan is doing it before our eyes. I had a sense watching that game that early on there was enough noise about possibly Nick Foles entering against the Vikings.
Right.
That if the Colts had fallen behind 17-0, 21-6, whatever, we may have seen Nick Foles in the second half. And, when you're up 33-0, I bet one of the items of regret that Jeff Saturday has is not flipping from Ryan to Foles while the second half was unfolding. And the Colts were just kind of gradually, methodically falling apart. That is there a moment, and I bet if you go back and watch that second half again, there's maybe a moment that would have been the right time, in hindsight, to take out Ryan and put in Foles. But how do you justify doing that when you've got a 33-0 lead that no one is ever going to be able to overcome? We can finish this out. We can get to the end with Matt Ryan, and the fact that they didn't probably was the final catalyst to just be done with it and move on to Nick Foles and see what he can do.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to pull the trigger with that, and you try to just ride the hand that got you to the 33-point lead, even though we know it was more Vikings mistakes and the Colts defense and special teams that really set up the table for the 33-point lead. But yeah, it's an unfortunate look. I think it's been a problem with their team, the whole year as far as when Matt Ryan's in at quarterback. It's why the run game didn't get off at times too, because there's the safeties are at 7 yards, like Jeff Saturday's talking about. So they're always outnumbered in the box to a degree. And where I feel for Matt Ryan is I hate that, this seems like it's going to become the legacy a little bit is what happened. Just the, social media, the memes, and now all the talk about, of course, blown leads. He was already famous for a blown lead. And now this makes it like, I feel like a little bit where this is going to be definitely a part of his conversation after his career. Between this game, the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game where they were up against the 49ers the year the 49ers and Ravens played, right? Were they up 17-0 in that game early on, right? Somewhere along that. And that's all you see people talk about now, and I don't think that's totally fair, but I know we're prisoners of the moment.
Well, the reality is those Falcons teams that were very good a decade or so ago did have a reputation for blowing leads.
They did.
And the ultimate blown lead came 28-3 in Super Bowl 51. And yes, now the last time that you play for the Colts, and maybe the last time you ever play at all, is this 33-0 debacle, the biggest blown lead in league history. So it's going to be hard for that not to be part of Matt Ryan's legacy, and it may keep him out of the Hall of Fame, or it may make him wait longer than maybe he thought he'd ever have to get in. He is a regular season MVP. He is higher on the all-time statistical stacks than you would think. He played for a long time. And now the question becomes, who would want him next year? Who's going to pay him to be on their roster? And he's got $12 million he's making from the Colts, even if he's not on the team. He could just retire. He could walk away and take his $12 million, and maybe he'll just do that, because Joe Flacco's the only one, entered the same year as Matt Ryan back in 2008. But Flacco's the only one that keeps hanging around, holding a clipboard, a guy who was once the highest paid player in the sport. Not many guys are willing to do that. And the question becomes, is Matt Ryan willing to just kind of, I'll be the backup for $4 million a year and not play? And I don't know that opportunity is even gonna come his way, Chris.
I don't know
what
either.
We've seen this year.
You're right. Well, Joe Flacco at least can push the ball, and I think that's the difference. Where Flacco's willing to a fault, stand in there all day long at times, and then he gets hit and fumbles. But his arm is still real. That's the one thing you hear from everybody when they go to Jets practices, or, you heard Garrett Wilson make a comment earlier this year. He throws a pretty ball, and he can throw the ball with ease and 20-yard out routes and deep posts and all of that. So that's where, it is a little different. And, yeah, we'll see. The Matt Ryan Hall of Fame discussion, that's a good one. Maybe that's something we talk about in the offseason or whenever he retires. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I know the stats are going to look like that, but a lot of people's stats are going to look great from this era. I'm not sure I would quite classify him as a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion.
Hey, if Matt Ryan gets in before Phil Simms gets in, that's a problem. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend and it's Christmas time, but it's true.
Yeah, thank you.
It's true.
Thanks.
He won a Super Bowl. Phil won a Super Bowl, right? With one of the great performances of all time. So that seems to matter in the eyes of the folks who make those decisions. So Vegas actually isn't impressed by the shift to Nick Foles. It had been Chargers -3. It's now Chargers -4.5.
Wow,
on Monday
shocking.
night afternoon.
Shocking.
The quarterback change.
Whoa,
So
I mean,
I just think it's just a sense of disarray and dysfunction for the Colts when you're making this change. It's like, yet again, this team has been ricocheting all over the place with quarterbacks this year. Here they go again, plunging into Jim Irsay-fueled dysfunction.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's what it is. It's the overall feel. Me as the football guy, and I don't know how you feel, Mike. I mean, you sound like you're surprised too. I'd go, I'm shocked it didn't move a point and a half the other way. You know, now there's a little bit of a competitive advantage here to be had because I think there's going to be some plays unlocked in the playbook where the Chargers are going to be like, wait, we haven't seen that play on film this year. And, you know, now it's going to Nick Foles, his ability to throw the ball down the field. He throws a nice deep ball, can throw it high up in the air where, you know, that's going to be a part of their offense that not necessarily the Chargers are going to be able to study for it. So I think there is something to be had there with a new element of the offense that, you know, you're not prepared for and haven't got to see on film and not exactly sure how and when they're going to do it.
Nick Foles, the most accomplished quarterback, at least as championships go, from the draft of 2012, which brought us Andrew Luck, RG3, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, the only Super Bowl champion and the only Super Bowl MVP from that entire group. Not only champion because Russell Wilson won one, but the only Super Bowl MVP from the entire group. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.